The night deepens, and in that quiet moment, a tired mind begins to soften, its thoughts gently slowing, its worries fading. We all know the heavy feeling of a long day. The loud noises of the world push against us, making our heads spin and our hearts beat fast. We lay down, but our minds keep running. We replay the busy hours, the loud voices, and the endless list of things we still need to do. It feels like a storm inside, a swirling wind that just will not stop. Deep down, there is a quiet wish for it all to pause. We long for a soft place to rest, a gentle breath of fresh air to clear the fog. We want the loud rush to turn into a slow, calm hum. This deep wish is something everyone feels. It is a simple hunger for peace, a hope that somewhere, outside the busy streets and glowing screens, there is a quiet space waiting just for us. When the world gets too loud, the answer is not to shout back. The answer is to find a place where you do not have to speak at all. This is the gentle path that a woman named Mary Oliver walked for most of her life. She was not loud, and she did not try to fix the world with big, heavy words. Instead, she found a deep and lasting peace by simply stepping outside. Mary Oliver learned that the best way to calm a busy mind is to listen to the quiet earth. She spent her days walking through woods and standing near the water. She did not rush. She let the soft sounds of nature wash over her, teaching her how to be still. For her, stepping into the wild was like stepping into a warm, safe home where every tree and stone had a quiet secret to share. She found magic in the tiny things we often walk right past. She would stop to watch the way the morning sun painted a golden line on a single green leaf. She would stand perfectly still to hear the sudden, happy chirp of a small bird hidden in the branches. These small moments were not just pretty sights to her. They were like ropes, pulling her away from worry and grounding her in the right now. By focusing on a little drop of dew or the rough bark of an old tree, the big fears of the world began to shrink. When you look closely at a tiny bug climbing a blade of grass, you forget about the rushing clocks. You see that life is happening in slow, beautiful steps all around you. Mary Oliver knew that if you just stop and look, truly look, the world will show you its quiet beauty. That simple act of stopping to watch a single leaf fall became her greatest tool for finding deep rest. The place that held her and taught her these lessons was a quiet town by the sea called Provincetown, located in Massachusetts. It was a place where the land met the wild, open ocean. Here, the salty wind blew freely, and the tides rolled in and out with a slow, steady beat. The beaches were wide and empty, offering a perfect, quiet space for long, slow walks. In this seaside town, she watched the world change its clothes with every season. She saw the bright green of spring turn into the deep gold of fall, and then fade into the quiet, white sleep of winter. The wild shores did not ask anything of her. They just let her be. Living close to the water and the woods gave her a safe place to breathe and a beautiful world to study. The steady waves and wild paths of that small town by the sea became the very heartbeat of her peaceful life. This quiet life by the sea was very different from the normal, busy human world. The human world is often heavy with worry, filled with loud needs and endless rushing. We build walls of stress, worrying about what happened yesterday and what might happen tomorrow. We carry heavy bags of sadness and fear, letting them weigh down our shoulders until we can barely stand. Out in the woods, those heavy human bags do not matter. The trees do not care about our mistakes, and the birds do not judge our messy lives. Mary Oliver saw how much we hurt ourselves by staying trapped in our own busy heads. She knew the pain of feeling lost in a crowd, and she wanted to show people that there is a way to set that heavy load down on the soft dirt. She realized that leaving the loud rush behind was the only way to heal a tired, hurting heart. To find this healing, she used a special tool she called attention. But this was not the kind of attention you use in a hard school lesson. Her kind of attention was a soft, loving focus. It meant truly seeing the shape of a flower, not just glancing at it. It meant truly listening to the wind in the pine trees, letting the sound fill up the empty spaces inside you. Paying attention was her way of showing love to the world. When you give something your full, quiet focus, you say that it matters, and in return, that tiny piece of nature makes you feel like you matter too. By giving her soft focus to the wild things, she stopped thinking about her own worries. Her mind became clear, calm, and perfectly still, like a deep pool of water on a windless day. This gentle practice of looking closely became her daily habit, a simple way to find joy in the present moment. The wild places gave her a comfort she could not find anywhere else. When she walked among the tall trees or stood on the empty beach, she did not feel alone. She felt like she was a part of a big, beautiful family. The woods wrapped around her like a warm blanket, keeping the cold fears away. She found a deep feeling of being home, a feeling that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. In the wild, there is no need to pretend or be perfect. A crooked branch is still beautiful, and a broken shell is still a treasure. Nature accepted her exactly as she was, with all her cracks and quiet hopes. This total acceptance brought a deep, lasting peace to her soul. It was a gentle reminder that we are all wild things, meant to live freely and peacefully under the wide, open sky. That quiet feeling of belonging in the deep woods of Provincetown, Massachusetts, gave her a safe place to finally rest her tired mind. Walking for hours through the Blackwater woods at dawn, she discovered an environment where the rustling oak leaves and damp soil demanded nothing from her, offering a profound psychological sanctuary. She did not want to keep this gentle peace all to herself. She wanted to share the quiet things she found with anyone who needed them. So, she began to gather words, carrying hand-sewn notebooks in her pockets. She picked her phrases as carefully as a geologist selecting smooth, heavy stones from a rushing riverbed. She put these words together to make poems, intentionally turning away from the dense academic riddles popular in the mid-20th century. She was not trying to sound smart or write hard puzzles for scholars to decode. Her poems were just open doors, building a quiet room where a busy mind could walk inside and sit down. Every poem she wrote turned into a soft blanket for a cold and heavy world. Readers began carrying her paperbacks in their coats, reading her verses in hospital waiting rooms, therapists' offices, and quiet kitchens. Her plain-spoken language provided immediate emotional first aid for people struggling with grief, clinical anxiety, and profound loneliness. One of her most famous poems is called Wild Geese, published in her 1986 collection titled Dreamwork. It is not just a story about migratory birds in the autumn sky. It operates as a direct and gentle letter written straight to you, especially if you ever feel lost, overwhelmed, or simply not good enough. The poem starts by telling you a secret that feels like a huge relief to the modern nervous system. It says you do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert dirt, begging to be forgiven for your inevitable human mistakes. Just hearing those simple words can lift a heavy weight right off your tired shoulders. Psychologists note that this specific type of unconditional acceptance can actually lower your heart rate and reduce stress hormones, breaking the toxic cycle of chronic self-criticism that plagues so many individuals trying to survive in our highly competitive society. The poem tells us to just let the soft animal of our body love what it loves. It means you do not have to fight your fundamental nature all the time. You can just be exactly who you are, breathing the oxygen around you, feeling the sun on your face, and honoring your basic biological needs. She promises that the world offers itself to your imagination, no matter where you live. The wild geese flying high in the clean blue air are calling to you with harsh and exciting voices. They are reminding you that you have a real, unchangeable place in the family of things, just like the ancient trees and the distant stars. Knowing you truly belong right here brings a deep and lasting calm to the human heart. This ecological concept of interconnectedness proves that you are never actually isolated from the earth. Recognizing your biological citizenship in the natural world provides a sturdy anchor against the intense loneliness so common in our modern concrete cities. Another beautiful poem she wrote is called The Summer Day, which won a major literary award after appearing in her 1990 collection titled House of Light. This poem is filled with pure and simple joy. It takes you directly outside into a bright green field of tall weeds on a remarkably warm afternoon. She asks you to look very closely at a grasshopper who is eating sugar directly out of her hand. She watches the complex mechanics of the bug moving its jaws back and forth. She watches it wash its pale face and snap its wings to fly away. It is a tiny, perfect, and entirely ordinary moment of life. That tiny bug shows us how easy it is to just be happy right where we are, practicing the art of radical attention. By focusing entirely on the insect, she demonstrates a powerful form of mindfulness. We realize that simply being alive and observing the earth holds immense value, entirely separate from our daily achievements. This poem teaches us a very important lesson about finding peace in an economy driven by constant consumerism. You do not need to go on a grand, expensive adventure across the ocean to find meaning. You do not need to buy luxury goods, chase endless promotions, or win a big prize to feel successful. True peace is hiding in the ordinary wonders right outside your front door. It is in the way the tall native grass bends under the weight of the wind. It is in the cool, dark water of a neighborhood pond, waiting for you to simply sit down on the muddy bank and pay close attention. Looking closely at these small, beautiful things makes our big, loud worries fade away into nothing. Neurologists have actually found that shifting our focus outward to the micro details of the natural world interrupts the default mode network in our brains, actively shutting down the exhausting internal loops of rumination, fear, and chronic anxiety. This quiet looking is so incredibly important because our normal technology-driven world is very loud and very fast. Every single day, people feel a heavy pressure pushing down on them from 24-hour news cycles and demanding digital schedules. We are constantly told we need to do more, be more, and move faster. This constant rushing leaves us feeling completely empty, exhausted, and deeply afraid. We run out of physical energy, and our minds spin in endless circles of social comparison. Millions of people find themselves trapped in a terrifying state of modern burnout, overwhelmed by a persistent, sinking feeling that they are never quite enough. That heavy, loud rush of the world starts to fade away when you finally stop to listen. The constant barrage of digital notifications and the hum of urban traffic dissolve the moment you step past the tree line. In this quiet space, the frantic pace of modern life surrenders to the slow rhythm of the natural world. Mary Oliver wrote poems that act like a soft blanket for a tired mind. Her words do not ask you to be better, to work harder, or to fix everything right now. Instead of demanding that you maximize your daily output, her stanzas simply invite you to rest and let the soft animal of your body breathe. When you read her gentle lines, it feels like a quiet friend is sitting beside you on a weathered bench. Her poetry heals you by simply letting you be exactly who you are in this very moment. There is no judgment in her verses, only a profound psychological validation that accepts your current state without apology. Her soft words settle in the air like dust falling in a sunbeam, bringing a deep, easy peace. As you absorb her carefully paced rhythms, your stress hormone levels drop. The deliberate spacing of her language lowers a racing heart rate down to a calm baseline, proving that poetry possesses real physiological power to soothe. She helps you feel your own feet pressing into the soft dirt. You stop floating away in your worries and start feeling the solid ground holding you up safely. By focusing your attention on the tactile crunch of pine needles, she provides a grounding technique that instantly pulls a spiraling mind back into the physical body. You become like an old tree with deep roots spreading far under the soil. This strong bond with the earth makes you feel steady and perfectly at home in the world. When you connect with the biological stability of the forest floor, daily anxieties suddenly feel incredibly small against the massive scale of the natural ecosystem. Held tightly by the ground below, your mind finally stops spinning and finds a quiet place to stay. The neurological shift from a frantic panic response to a calm, resting state happens naturally here. By feeling securely anchored to the physical planet, abstract fears evaporate, leaving only the immediate reality of breath moving in and out. Mary believed in something she called devotion, treating her daily walks through the woods as a sacred ritual. For her, this was not about going to a big building or following strict rules. It was simply about giving her full, loving attention to right now. She turned the simple act of observation into a continuous daily liturgy. She gave her whole heart to watching a bug crawl, a leaf fall, or a cloud drift across the blue sky. This deep focus on the present moment was her special way of saying thank you for being alive. Whether tracking a heron or observing a grasshopper, she treated the smallest biological events with massive reverence. By looking so closely at the simple things right in front of her, the big, scary worries simply melted away. Focusing intensely on micro-fascinations restores our depleted cognitive capacity. When you spend hours watching a spider weave its web, existential dread is replaced by profound awe for the precise perfection of a tiny, eight-legged architect. The world always tells us to run faster, to climb higher, and to win every race. But Mary chose to sit quietly by a pond and just watch the water ripple in the breeze. She actively rejected endless productivity metrics, deciding to spend decades near Blackwater Pond, doing nothing that society would consider financially profitable. She showed us that you do not need to fight and push all the time to find a good life. There is a huge, quiet power in just sitting still and letting the beauty of the world come to you. This passive receptivity proves that human value is not strictly tied to economic output or constant motion. You do not have to earn your place in the world by working until you are too tired to stand. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles repenting. Belonging to the family of things is an inherent biological right, rather than a wage that must be continuously earned through sheer exhaustion. In the woods, Mary saw that everything has its own time. A flower blooms brightly, then fades and turns to dirt, and then new green shoots grow from that same spot when spring comes back. She watched fallen logs quietly feed the next generation of ferns and mosses over a 20-year span without any rush or panic. She knew our own lives work the exact same way. We have times of great joy and times of deep sadness, and knowing that everything comes back to life helps us feel brave during the dark winters. Acknowledging that grief is a natural winter state requires us to practice patient dormancy rather than forcing an immediate cure. The changing seasons remind us that after every cold, hard ending, a warm, fresh start is already waiting in the soil. This mirrors the biological mechanism where certain seeds require months of freezing temperatures before they can sprout. It proves that periods of intense hardship are often the exact prerequisites needed to trigger massive future growth. The best part of Mary's poetry is how easy it is to understand. She did not use big fancy words to try and sound smart or to hide her true feelings. Instead, she chose a democratic, highly accessible vocabulary that invited people from all educational backgrounds into a deeply profound conversation about the meaning of existence. She used the simple words we use every day to talk about huge, beautiful feelings. Because she spoke so plainly, her poems reach right into our hearts and make us feel known, loved, and deeply understood. Her accessible verses continue to serve as a universal emotional anchor for the most significant moments of the human experience. Because she used such plain words, anyone could step right into her quiet world. In that quiet world, you will often find birds. Mary Oliver spent countless hours watching them lift off the ground and glide through the open sky, from the common sparrow to the majestic hawk. She saw how a hawk or a small swan could just let go of the earth, a movement that seemed to defy gravity itself. To her, these winged creatures were tiny teachers of profound freedom, demonstrating how to be light and how to ride the wind without a trace of fear. When she wrote about a great blue heron standing perfectly still in the dark, reflective water, she was sharing a secret about the nature of peace. The birds did not worry about tomorrow's hunt or rush through their day's activities. They simply flew, sang their melodies, and rested when the sun dipped below the horizon. By looking up at them, observing their unburdened existence, she learned how to lift her own heavy thoughts into the wide, calm expanse of the sky, much like they did with their physical forms. Watching those wings catch the wind, witnessing that effortless flight, gave her a deep, lasting sense of hope that permeated her life and her work. She also wrote with raw honesty about the broken and soft parts of life, the vulnerabilities we all carry. Mary Oliver did not hide her sadness or pretend that everything was always perfect, a facade many people adopt. She understood that trees naturally lose their leaves in autumn, and that winter inevitably brings a deep, cold sleep to the land. She showed her readers that feeling weak, lost, or even afraid is just a normal, inherent part of being alive and experiencing the human condition. In her poems, a visible scar or a lingering shadow was presented as nothing to be ashamed of, but rather as a testament to survival. She believed that every hard moment, every painful experience made the heart grow softer, more compassionate, and ultimately, kinder. By bravely sharing her own doubts and moments of uncertainty, she gave everyone else permission to feel a little unsure too, creating a shared space of acceptance. She wrapped our collective human flaws in a gentle, comforting blanket of her carefully chosen words. That brave, unflinching honesty made her readers feel profoundly safe, a powerful reassurance that they were never truly alone in their pain or their struggles. Reading her lines feels like taking a very slow, deep, and restorative breath. The words flow with a steady, unhurried beat, much like the gentle rhythm of waves softly rolling onto a sandy shore. She placed each word with deliberate care, aiming to quiet the agitated mind and slow down a racing heart. It is akin to sitting perfectly still in a quiet, empty room and simply listening to the soothing sound of the rain falling outside. You do not have to strain your intellect or think hard to grasp her profound meaning. You simply let the resonant sounds wash over you, carrying your worries and anxieties away with their gentle tide. Each poem she crafted serves as a small, safe haven, a sanctuary where you can rest your tired eyes and weary soul. It is a quiet, simple practice of just being present, right here, right now, in this exact, unadorned moment. This gentle, consistent rhythm transforms the simple, everyday act of reading into a deep, profoundly healing form of rest and rejuvenation. Many of those deeply restful and contemplative moments often occur during the bright, warm, and abundant days of summer. Mary Oliver particularly loved to write about the sun baking the lush green grass and the intoxicatingly sweet smell of blooming flowers filling the air. In her summer poems, the natural world is depicted as being vibrantly full of life, alive with buzzing bees, and adorned with tall, verdant trees. Everything in her summer landscapes is actively growing, reaching upward toward the life-giving light, and existing in a state of complete, unadulterated fullness. These sunny, optimistic words act like a warm, comforting hug for a spirit that might feel cold or depleted. She paints vivid pictures of lazy, unhurried afternoons where the only pressing job is to lie back in the soft grass and watch the slow drift of the clouds across the blue sky. The summer in her work is not merely presented as a season, but as a tangible feeling of pure, unadulterated joy and the profound sense of having more than enough. It serves as a vital reminder to the soul that warm, golden days will inevitably return, no matter how dark the present moment may seem. That bright, energetic summer essence captured in her words fills the heart with a quiet, glowing, and enduring gladness. From the vibrant summer grass beneath bare feet to the hushed stillness of the winter snow, she saw how everything in the universe holds hands. Mary Oliver famously wrote that we all fundamentally belong to the family of things, a concept that profoundly interconnected all living and non-living elements. This means that the towering trees, the flowing rivers, the wild bears, and the complex humans are all integral parts of one single, vast, breathing home. We are not separate entities from the rich dirt beneath us or the distant, twinkling stars above. When you truly internalize the knowledge that you are an essential part of this vast, interconnected family, you naturally stop feeling so small, insignificant, and lost in the immensity of existence. The same life-giving water that fills the vast, immeasurable ocean also gracefully falls as gentle rain upon your cheek. The same invisible air that rustles the ancient pine branches also fills your very lungs with every breath. Her poetry consistently reminds us that we are always, irrevocably, and tenderly held by the very earth we walk upon each day. This profound feeling of being intrinsically tied to the whole, interconnected world washes away the lonely, aching sensation of being apart and disconnected. Above all else, her unique voice serves as a soft, gentle hand, subtly pulling you away from the incessant, overwhelming rush of modern life. The world spins at an ever-increasing speed, constantly asking us to do more, run faster, and be louder in our pursuits. But Mary Oliver, with quiet wisdom, stands by the edge of the woods, a serene figure, and whispers for us to stop our frantic pace. She simply asks us to stand still for a moment and truly look at a single, ordinary green leaf, noticing its intricate details. This simple, yet profound invitation to pause and be present is arguably the greatest gift she left behind for her readers. It requires a distinct form of courage to actively stop rushing through life and simply observe the subtle, ever-changing colours of the morning light. But when you finally allow yourself to slow down, the incessant noise and demands of the day gradually fade into a sweet, liberating silence. You discover that true, lasting peace was waiting patiently right there in the quiet stillness all along. When we finally stop rushing, the world opens up to heal us. Mary Oliver did not just look at the woods to find pretty things. She looked because looking was a way to heal a tired heart. When she watched a bird on a branch or a fish in the dark water, her mind found a safe place to rest. Her deep focus, honed over decades spent observing the natural world, was like a warm blanket for the soul, a deliberate turning away from the clamour of everyday life. Paying close attention takes away our heavy worries. By watching a tiny beetle crawl over a dew-kissed green leaf, she let go of human sadness and the relentless pressure of unmet expectations. The woods became a quiet sanctuary where the ancient trees stood as silent helpers and the whispering wind acted as a soothing balm. Just being present in that space, breathing the pine-scented air, made the persistent pain start to fade away, replaced by a gentle sense of calm. This gentle, persistent healing brought a deep sigh of relief, a profound release from the internal burdens we so often carry. There is a great peace in finding out that life does not have to be so hard, so complex, so fraught with anxiety. Mary found that the fundamental truth of the world is remarkably simple. A stone is just a stone, solid and enduring, and a river just flows, its path determined by gravity, down to the vast expanse of the sea. They do not worry about being good enough, about achieving some arbitrary standard, and neither should we. Accepting these easy, elemental truths takes a heavy weight off our shoulders. We do not have to figure out every secret of the stars or solve every complex problem to belong here, to be worthy. We just have to breathe the air, feel the sun on our skin, and walk on the soft, yielding dirt beneath our feet. Her poems remind us with unwavering clarity that simply being alive in this moment is already enough. Knowing we are enough lets the mind finally quiet down, releasing the constant internal dialogue of doubt and striving. The wild world does not yell to make us listen or demand our attention with urgent alarms. Mary knew that the best, most profound lessons come in total, unadulterated silence. A mighty oak tree does not shout when it grows tall and strong over centuries, and the luminous moon does not make a sound when it rises majestically into the night sky. They simply show up day after day, season after season, teaching us the quiet art of being still, of persistent presence. In that quiet space, free from external noise and internal chatter, We can finally hear our own thoughts slow down, their frantic pace giving way to a more deliberate rhythm. The silence of the forest is not empty or desolate. It is full of a soft, steady peace that waits patiently for us to sit and share in its embrace. When we stop talking, when we cease our endless internal monologue, the quiet earth speaks directly to our hearts, offering its ancient wisdom. That soft, enveloping silence makes us feel like we are safely held, cradled by something ancient and enduring. When people read her gentle, observant words, they feel a warm, resonant sense of home, a feeling of belonging. It is as if she knew all of our secret fears, our hidden anxieties, and whispered to us that it is perfectly okay to be scared, to feel vulnerable. Her poems reach out like a kind, steady hand in the dark, offering comfort and companionship. They tell us that our worries, our struggles, are normal human experiences, and that we are never truly alone in our journey. We read her lines and feel completely accepted, unconditionally, just as we are, with all our imperfections. The dark woods she loved so deeply, the quiet ponds she so often described, do not judge us for our mistakes or our perceived failings. The clear ponds reflect our faces with nothing but an honest, unadulterated grace. Her work wraps around us like a comforting embrace, making us feel seen, safe, and deeply, profoundly loved. Feeling so safely held allows the tight, constricting knots of anxiety and stress inside us to slowly, gently come undone. We all carry loud storms inside our minds from time to time, tempests of worry and regret that can feel overwhelming. Her poetry takes us gently by the hand and walks us out of that loud, disorienting storm. Step by careful step, she leads us away from the internal noise and out into a bright, open field bathed in sunlight. The messy, tangled feelings slowly begin to untangle and resolve as we walk with her guidance. The anger and fear that once raged within us begin to melt away, dissipating like mist into the soft green grass. What starts as a heavy, oppressive chest transforms into a light and easy breath, a sense of spaciousness. This profound change does not happen all at once, like a sudden clap of thunder, but rather like a delicate flower opening its petals in the gentle morning sun. Soon the profound calm we experience outside in the quiet woods becomes the equally profound calm within our own bodies and minds. This new, quiet feeling, this sense of inner peace, stays with us long after the walk through her words is done, becoming an enduring part of our inner landscape. The simple, unadorned beauty of the earth has a power that never fades away, an intrinsic strength that resonates deeply within us. A flash of a bright blue bird against the sky or the vibrant hue of a yellow wildflower leaves an indelible mark on the soul that lasts forever. Mary captured these tiny, fleeting flashes of pure joy and wonder and carefully placed them into her poems so they would never die, so their luminescence would endure. They glow like warm, steady little lamps in our minds, offering light and solace. When the world feels too fast, too demanding, or too cold and indifferent, we can just close our eyes and remember those vivid, elemental images. We can see the pristine white swan floating serenely on the dark, mysterious water. We can feel the gentle morning sun warming the cool, damp ground beneath our bare feet. That pure, simple, unadulterated beauty is always there, a constant refuge, waiting patiently to bring us back to a state of peace. That simple, clear beauty of the Provincetown woods never fades, but it leaves behind a philosophical legacy that is even stronger than the physical landscape. After more than 50 years of walking the same coastal trails and recording the exact habits of local wildlife, her observations transformed from simple nature records into a profound survival guide for the modern human spirit. Mary Oliver did not just write lines on a page to be analysed in university classrooms. Across over 30 published collections, she built a highly specific, quiet map for the rest of us to follow. When the 21st century world gets too loud, too fast, and entirely consumed by digital screens, her words act like a deliberate, gentle hand on your shoulder, guiding you back to a still place. She showed us exactly how to breathe again when the accumulated weight of modern expectations feels too heavy to carry. Millions of readers still carry her paperback volumes like devotions or dream work in their coat pockets like small warm stones to guard against the cold. They turn to her heavily worn pages when they are chronically exhausted, completely lost in grief, or just desperately need to remember what is physically real. Her true artistic gift was never just seeing the natural world with perfect clarity, but rather showing us the exact mechanism to find our own deep, lasting rest inside it. That quiet map she left behind points deliberately away from the endless noise of urban traffic and corporate ladders, directing us straight toward a deep, lasting comfort found in the dirt. It charts a precise course through the black oaks and the salt marshes, proving that genuine salvation does not require a grand pilgrimage, but only a willingness to step outside your front door. For so long, modern society dictates that we must push relentlessly, climb every available ladder, and win at all costs. We run on concrete pavements until our legs physically ache and our minds spin with anxiety, constantly trying to be good enough, productive enough, and wealthy enough for everyone else. But her most famous poems, particularly Wild Geese, teach us to immediately drop that crushing psychological load. They tell us directly that you do not have to be perfect or even good to be completely loved by the earth. The physical relief of just letting go of those impossible standards washes over your nervous system like cool, fresh water from a hidden spring. You finally stop trying to fix every broken situation in your life and just let yourself be an equal part of the family of things, standing alongside the trees and the stones. In that soft, unjudging space, the desperate need to win arguments or accumulate wealth simply melts away, leaving only the quiet, profound joy of being biologically alive, right here, right now. Letting go of the endless artificial race of human achievement brings a soft, deep breath of absolute freedom to the chronically tired soul. This intentional surrender lowers the heart rate, clears the mental fog, and reconnects the isolated individual to the vast, ancient rhythms of the turning planet that have existed for billions of years. As she grew older and eventually moved to the warmer climate of Florida in her final decade, her poems became even more distilled, still, and remarkably clear. Facing a diagnosis of lymphoma and the inevitable end of her own 83 years of life, she looked at mortality not with panic or fear, but with a calm, steady, and intensely curious eye. She saw the passing of human time not as a tragedy, but as just another completely natural, beautiful turn of the endless ecological seasons. These final written words hold the deep, earned peace of a long, productive day coming to a gentle, inevitable close. She wrote about stepping into the great dark unknown, as if she were just walking confidently into another unexplored, deeply shaded part of the familiar forest. Her late poems from collections like Felicity wrap around the grieving reader like a thick, warm blanket, promising with absolute authority that the cycle of life and death is exactly as it should be. That calm, hard-won wisdom settles into the quiet evening shadows of the literary world, resting softly on the damp, fragrant earth where her journey first began. It leaves a permanent marker for future generations, proving that a life spent quietly observing the dirt and the sky is a life lived to its absolute most magnificent fullest. When she walked daily through the tall marsh grass of Cape Cod, she fundamentally felt that the living world was looking right back at her with equal intelligence. The towering century-old black oak trees and the small, quick grey catbirds were never just passive background scenery for a human to look at. They were treated as old, trusted friends who somehow knew her name, recognized her daily footsteps, and completely understood the complex burdens of her human heart. Standing for hours by the great dark expanse of the freezing Atlantic Ocean, she felt its huge rhythmic waves physically washing away her deepest, lonely feelings and childhood traumas. The freezing salt water and the harsh winter wind saw her exactly as she was, with all her human flaws and lingering sadness, and welcomed her completely anyway. This unbreakable biological bond made the wild, unpredictable outdoors feel like the absolute safest, most secure home she ever actually knew. Being intimately known and accepted by the wild pine trees and the deep churning sea fundamentally changes how you walk through the rest of the civilized world. It replaces the frantic human need for social approval with a quiet, unshakable confidence, rooting your identity firmly in the ancient bedrock of the earth, rather than the shifting sands of public opinion. Her carefully chosen words explicitly ask us to stop rushing blindly past the complex biological magic that happens in our own backyards every single day. They practically beg us to drastically slow our hurried steps, to crouch down and look closely at the tiny black ant carrying a crumb across the paved path, and to actually listen to the specific pitch of the wind rattling the dry autumn leaves. This is not just a pleasant way to read poetry, but a radical, brand new way to physically live your daily life. When you finally take the dedicated time to really notice the small miraculous things like a single blooming snowdrop or a grasshopper eating a blade of grass, your whole frantic life physically slows down. The tight, painful knot of financial and social worry in your chest physically starts to untie itself, muscle by muscle, breath by breath. You actively learn to stay right here in this exact physical minute, finding profound psychological peace in the simple, deliberate act of paying close attention. This incredibly slow, carefully observant way of living successfully turns a completely ordinary grey Tuesday morning into a quiet, unexpectedly holy gift. It transforms the simple act of drinking coffee while watching a single sparrow on a telephone wire into a sacred ritual, proving that miracles are constantly occurring all around us, if we only bother to look. We all universally carry the exact same heavy, complicated feelings inside our bodies, ranging from the sudden, sharp fear of a medical diagnosis to the deep, aching sadness of losing someone we love. But we also equally share the bright, sudden sparks of uncontainable joy and the wide-eyed, breathless wonder of seeing a perfectly clear, star-filled night sky far away from city lights. Her published poems speak directly and clearly to every single one of those shared, vulnerable human heartbeats. By bravely naming her own private pain and her own overwhelming gladness in stark, unapologetic terms, she makes millions of isolated readers feel so much less alone in the dark. When you read her carefully crafted lines, you suddenly realize that your private tears and your quiet smiles are actually vital threads in a giant, beautiful, interconnected web of human experience. We are all permanently tied together by these exact same deep feelings, finding our ultimate comfort in the simple, undeniable truth that someone else finally, truly understands. That shared feeling of belonging wraps around us all, gentle and warm, whenever we step away from the concrete sidewalks and back into the living soil. Mary Oliver understood that the human heart craves this exact connection, recognizing that our modern isolation is cured by the quiet embrace of the natural world. Mary did not just look at the leaning pitch pines and the fleeting black-capped chickadees. She learned to speak with them in her own quiet way, studying their daily habits with the rigor of a field biologist. When she walked in the deep woods, she was not just a passing guest. She was a fundamental piece of the ecosystem, finding out exactly where her own breathing body fit into the grand design. Her published poems became her true voice, rising up directly from the damp earth, the decaying oak leaves, and the tidal mudflats. She showed her readers that when we listen closely to the unfiltered sounds of the wild world, we finally hear our own true song. It is an ancient song that tells us we are right where we need to be, firmly rooted in the present moment. Hearing that deep inner song brings a profound wave of calm that washes away all lingering doubt about our place in the universe. This sudden clarity silences the endless mental chatter, replacing our deepest anxieties with a steady, undeniable rhythm. There is a rich, undeniable joy in doing absolutely nothing but simply being alive in the immediate moment. You do not have to win a grueling corporate race, accumulate vast wealth, or build a great steel tower to matter. You can just sit quietly by a freshwater stream and watch the cold water flow steadily over smooth granite stones. Breathing in the cool morning air sweeping off the Atlantic Ocean is entirely enough to justify your existence. Feeling the warm afternoon sun baking the skin on your hands is enough to validate your day. This quiet, deliberate practice of just standing perfectly still lets the heavy, exhausting weight of modern expectations slide right off your shoulders. The remarkably simple act of just being leaves the human heart full and completely at rest, lowering the pulse and settling the nervous system. It strips away the frantic need for constant productivity, replacing our endless lists with a profound sense of spiritual satisfaction. The wild world is incredibly tough, and it patiently teaches us how to be tough too. A tiny green weed can stubbornly push its way right through a cracked asphalt path, proving that life insists on surviving. The freezing, desolate winter always melts away into damp soil, and the bright spring always comes back without fail to fill the bare maple trees with vibrant new buds. Mary saw this undeniably strong spirit in every buried acorn and every violent coastal storm that battered the Massachusetts shoreline. She knew with absolute certainty that we possess that exact same deep biological strength inside our own bodies. When we feel completely broken by the freezing winds of grief, we can still grow back, pushing upward just like the resilient green shoots in the early days of spring. Knowing we possess the natural capacity to heal our deepest wounds and grow again gives us the necessary courage to face any dark night. It provides a biological blueprint for our own emotional survival, reminding us that every period of painful dormancy is simply preparation for our next season of blooming. Nothing in the dense woods stays the exact same forever, and there is a profound, grounding peace in that ecological truth. Green summer leaves inevitably turn a brittle brown and fall to the forest floor, actively decomposing to make a soft bed for the coming winter snow. The burning sun eventually sets below the horizon, gracefully making way for the rising silver moon. We do not have to hold on to our fading youth, our past mistakes, or our shifting relationships quite so tightly. Her careful words help us let the unpredictable seasons of our own lives come and go without paralyzing fear. We can bravely watch the inevitable changes happen, trusting the natural cycle and knowing that every painful ending ultimately brings a gentle, necessary new start. Trusting the soft, inevitable turn of time makes the heavy, suffocating fear of loss slowly fade away into the background. It transforms our desperate clinging into a graceful acceptance, allowing us to appreciate the temporary beauty of each passing phase. The coastal town she called home for over 50 years was full of its own specific rugged magic. The damp morning air constantly tasted like thick salt blowing in off the wide blue expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. Tall, sweeping hills of white sand shifted slowly in the relentless coastal wind, physically changing their massive shapes every single day. High above the dunes, white herring gulls cried out sharply as they effortlessly rode the invisible currents of the sea breeze. She walked these narrow sandy paths for hours at a time, deliberately soaking in the sharp smell of resinous pine trees and the decaying damp seagrass. Every single grain of quartz sand and every freezing drop of ocean water became an inseparable part of her peaceful soul. The pure, untamed beauty of that salty Massachusetts shore taught her exactly how to stop running, stand perfectly still, and just feel the world turning beneath her boots. It was a daily masterclass in raw presence, stripping away all artificial distractions until only the essential elements of wind, water, and breath remained. There is a massive, overwhelming sense of freedom when you finally open your clenched hands and let your accumulated burdens drop to the earth. All the old, nagging worries and the heavy, punishing thoughts of what you should have done simply blow away like dry dust in a strong gale. You realize you do not have to carry that heavy bag of past sadness over your shoulder anymore. Her enduring poems show us exactly how to drop the heavy, jagged rocks of regret and anxiety we constantly hold in our tired minds. When we finally let go of what we expect our lives to look like, our spirits instantly become light enough to float. We suddenly find a huge, unobstructed, open sky inside ourselves, cleared of all storm clouds and completely ready for pure, uninterrupted peace. That feeling of finally dropping heavy worries still hung in the salt air of Provincetown. In a quiet letter to a close friend in 2012, Mary wrote about how easy it was to just breathe when she finally stopped trying so desperately hard to fix everything. She showed that letting go is not just a one-time choice, but a daily, deliberate walk into the open woods. Across collections like American Primitive and Dreamwork, her words never yell at you or demand rigid obedience. Instead, her poems walk beside you like a kind, observant old friend pointing at the pitch pines. She teaches by simply showing you the glassy surface of Blackwater Pond or the heavy breathing of a sleeping black bear. When she writes about a tiny green spring peeper resting on a broad lily pad, she is really showing you how to sit still enough to let your own anxieties settle. She does not give hard rules or demand long philosophical tests. She just asks you to look closely at the damp soil and learn from the quiet world. The deep coastal forests of Cape Cod became the only classroom she ever truly needed, a sprawling sanctuary filled with damp green moss, decaying oak leaves, and the gentle morning light filtering through the canopy to illuminate the exact path she needed to walk that day. You are never truly alone when you step outside the door and feel the cool dirt under your bare feet. Her poems constantly remind us that we are an essential part of the family of things, just like the towering white oak trees and the fast-running rivers. Every sudden breath of wind serves as a physical reminder that we have a valid place right here. She shows us exactly how to walk into an overgrown pasture and feel completely at home among the tall goldenrod. The wild geese flying high in the clear autumn sky are not distant strangers, but vital parts of the same vast, beautiful world we inhabit. We fit into this intricate ecological puzzle perfectly, simply by breathing and being alive. Knowing you always have a safe, quiet spot waiting for you in the wild world makes the incredibly heavy days of grief and confusion feel light again. The woods offer a permanent refuge where human expectations disappear, leaving only the simple rhythm of the natural world behind. Looking closely at the natural world was never just a casual hobby Mary pursued on sunny weekends. It was her entire life's work, a daily discipline practiced from the first light of dawn until the dark of night. She built her entire literary legacy by paying fierce, undivided attention to the smallest, easily ignored things around her. By watching the exact same pitch pine tree grow and weather the coastal storms year after year, her own anxious mind grew incredibly peaceful and remarkably strong. This slow, steady practice of looking changed her completely from the inside out. It turned a normal afternoon walk in the woods into a profound, deeply healing psychological rest. More than 50 continuous years of this quiet, intentional watching turned the wild woods of Massachusetts into her absolute most trusted guide. The forest became a living library of wisdom, offering silent answers to the most complicated questions about human suffering, personal purpose, and the passage of time. A single tiny drop of dew resting on a morning oak leaf holds just as much cosmic magic as a giant exploding star. When you pause to watch a small, busy bumblebee gathering pollen on a yellow flower, a sudden deep feeling of joy can fill your chest. These tiny, fleeting moments are literal miracles hiding completely in plain sight. She watched a garden spider spinning a complex silver web between two branches and immediately knew it was a wonderful, mathematically perfect creation. The soft, rhythmic hum of cicadas and crickets in the tall summer grass was a beautiful symphony to her ears. Finding profound magic in these simple biological events makes the whole unpredictable world feel safe and inherently good. Finding genuine wonder in the smooth surface of a simple grey riverstone teaches the restless human heart to be perfectly happy with exactly what is right in front of it. This simple act of noticing strips away our constant, exhausting desire for more money, more status, and more complicated lives. You absolutely do not have to be perfect. nor do you have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting just to be worthy of love. Her most famous published words simply tell us to let the soft animal of our physical body love exactly what it loves. She gives us complete, unconditional permission to finally stop being so relentlessly hard on ourselves. Just as an old elm tree remains strikingly beautiful even with branches broken by harsh winter storms, we remain completely beautiful while carrying our own emotional scars and human flaws. By observing that wild nature never stops to judge itself for imperfections, we finally learn to stop judging our own battered hearts. We can simply exist exactly as we are, resting gently in the quiet unfolding of the day. Forgiving yourself for past mistakes eventually becomes just as natural and inevitable as a wild rose opening its tightly closed petals to the warm morning sun. The heavy burden of endless guilt melts away when you realize the earth accepts you without demanding a single apology or explanation. There is a deep, undeniable quiet power in watching a tiny green acorn push its determined way up through the heavy, dark dirt of the forest floor. The cold ocean waves keep rolling onto the sandy Atlantic beaches, no matter how violently the winter wind blows. Watching the physical world stubbornly keep going gives us the necessary emotional strength to keep going too. When the freezing cold winter finally arrives, the dormant maple trees do not panic or cry over lost leaves. They simply conserve their energy and wait patiently for the warm spring thaws to return. We can borrow that exact same quiet biological strength when our own personal days feel bitterly cold and impossibly hard. Nature constantly shows us that we can always start over again, fresh and completely new, with the rising of tomorrow's morning sun. That quiet strength of the ancient oak trees and the shifting Atlantic tides stays with us long after we return indoors, showing us exactly how to stand firm when the unpredictable winds of modern life blow hard against our daily routines. Mary saw a deep, unseen string tying our human hearts directly to the sprawling wild world around us. She felt with absolute certainty that when we look up at a migrating hawk or observe a sleeping black bear, we are really looking at an untamed part of ourselves. Her deliberate words show us that the thick pine woods and still freshwater ponds are not just scenic places to visit, but vital pieces of our own internal spirit. When the damp earth breathes out its morning mist, our souls breathe right along with it, feeling entirely at home. Because of this deep biological and emotional tie, a simple 20-minute walk outside among the damp ferns transforms from a casual routine into a proven psychological method to heal a tired, overworked mind burdened by screen time and endless schedules. Over the past 40 years, her small paperback books of poems became indispensable, quiet tools for navigating everyday life. Millions started keeping her printed words folded in their coat pockets, reading them on crowded commuter trains, in hospital waiting rooms, and beside sick beds to find a grounding moment of peace. University professors and grade school teachers alike read her verses aloud to anxious students, and friends mail her stanzas in handwritten letters to comfort those paralyzed by sudden grief. Her unpretentious lines built a lasting, accessible bridge to mental calm that anyone can cross at any time of day. The most profound psychological mark she left behind is clearly seen in the countless readers who finally learned how to forgive themselves for their perceived failures. Her gentle, authoritative voice gave ordinary people the ultimate permission to let go of accumulated guilt and just be genuinely happy to be alive. Families devastated over a sudden loss, or corporate workers completely worn out by demanding days found a remarkably safe place to rest within the margins of her pages. She fundamentally changed how her readers treated their own exhausted hearts, making their internal dialogues softer, more patient, and much kinder. This cultural shift completely changed how many of us view the great outdoors today, turning a simple afternoon hike into a quiet, deliberate search for psychological meaning. We no longer just walk blindly through the dense forest. We actively listen to the rustling canopy, genuinely hoping the landscape will speak back. By making the unpredictable wild feel like an old, wise friend, she successfully helped so many people see ordinary dirt, flowing river water, and fallen autumn leaves as genuinely holy things. The vast world outside became a giant, open sanctuary room where absolutely anyone could sit down and feel completely safe. Yet, even with modern psychology, it is still incredibly hard to explain exactly how a few carefully arranged words about a green grasshopper in the summer grass can actively fix a broken heart. Nobody can fully measure the exact neurological moment a short poem suddenly turns into pure, undeniable emotional comfort. We still constantly wonder how ink lines written many decades ago in a quiet coastal town can feel like they were written specifically for our exact struggles today. The underlying secret of exactly why her unadorned poetry reaches so incredibly deep inside our modern consciousness remains a beautiful, unsolvable mystery. Today, the quiet Massachusetts ponds and the tall, swaying pines she documented so carefully still stand as lasting, physical signs of her gentle, life-altering lessons. The pale morning light shining through the heavy forest canopy feels like a constant, living reminder to stop rushing and pay extremely close attention. Every single time the winter snow falls softly on a dark, empty agricultural field, it brings a fresh, undeniable wave of that exact same deep, restorative peace she wrote about. Her lifetime of work left a lasting, golden light on the everyday earth, making ordinary rural landscapes shine with quiet worth. For the millions of people who grew up reading her collected words, the overwhelming rush of fast, digitized modern life feels at least a little less scary. They know with absolute certainty that they can always step outside, take one deep breath of fresh air, and instantly find their calm center again. Her incredibly gentle rules for paying attention to the living world have become a quiet, essential guide for millions of anxious people desperately trying to slow down their racing thoughts. They carry her soft, enduring promise that the natural world will always offer them a perfectly safe, welcoming place to land. Moving forward into an uncertain environmental future, this profound shift in how we see the natural world actively helps us protect the fragile, quiet places that are still left untouched. When we learn to love the ancient trees as deeply as she did, we naturally want to fight to keep their ecosystems safe. Her steady voice echoes far into the future, constantly reminding us that saving the remaining wild spaces also directly means saving our own fragile peace of mind. Through her enduring legacy, the remarkably simple act of looking closely at a single woodland flower has become a quiet way to care for the whole earth. There is still one quiet mystery left in the dense pine forests of Provincetown. Even decades after her first publications, literary scholars and everyday readers alike wonder exactly how a simple daily walk through the damp woods could permanently heal the profound childhood trauma she carried. We cannot fully measure the neurological mechanics of how a few careful words about a sugar-eating grasshopper snapping its wings can instantly calm a racing, anxiety-ridden mind. That profound transformation remains a beautiful, undocumented secret forged between the solitary poet, the exhausted reader, and the vast wild world. Yet the lasting, tangible gift of her 83 years of life is remarkably clear across the literary landscape. Her slender volumes of verse, published steadily from 1963 until her final days, have become a permanent, safe sanctuary where deeply tired human hearts can finally lay down their burdens and rest. Millions of people keep dog-eared copies of collections like devotions tucked into their winter coats, travel backpacks, and cluttered bedside tables. They read her precise, gentle words in hospital waiting rooms and crowded subway cars when the modern world feels overwhelmingly loud, finding a reliable, quiet shelter inside her unpretentious lines. For those who have felt utterly lost to grief or depression, her uncompromising message leaves an indelible, soft mark on the daily rhythm of their lives. Through her guidance, they literally learn to step off the concrete pavement, take a deep breath of morning air, and let the towering oak trees become their silent, steadfast companions. Grieving families universally share her poems at memorial services and quiet kitchen tables to comfort each other during the darkest possible times. Her lifelong quiet habit of closely examining the damp New England dirt, the migrating birds, and the shifting sky has successfully taught hundreds of thousands of people how to simply endure and be okay again. Because of her relentless attention, the way modern society sees the local outdoors has fundamentally changed forever. We no longer look at a freezing pond or a hunting kingfisher as just background scenery to pass by on a hike, but rather as ancient, wise teachers actively showing us exactly how to live fully in the present moment without crushing worry. A single white egret feather rests quietly on a bed of damp green moss at the edge of the coastal water, offering a silent invitation. It lies there patiently, waiting for absolutely anyone willing to stop walking, look closely at the living earth, and finally feel completely at home in the universe.